Hello, my name is Gareth. You're watching the Hub Online Network, and today we have NDP candidate for the Fraser Nicola, Sumexheltza. Now let's let Aaron say hi.
Hi, Gareth. Great to be here today.
Yeah, so why the NDP? I suppose that if there's one big question that sort of goes to every candidate that runs for a party, what is it about the NDP that attracted you to their party campaign platform?
Well, really, the NDP reflects my values as a person that's born in Merritt, lived most of my life in Merritt, and a lot of what the NDP stands for, working for people, supporting rural communities, providing important and services to community members. That's part of the reason I decided to run for the NDP.
So let's find out a little bit about who you are. So you live in Merritt, and what have you sort of? Let's take a look at the last 5 years of your life. What have you sort of done politically in that 5 years?
Okay, maybe just to say, I was born in Merritt, and my family comes from Merritt. I also have family that comes from the Spence's Bridge, Ashcroft area as well, and so I have a long history of being from this part of the world. And of course, it's a beautiful part of the world. In terms of the last 5 years, I'm currently, I've been a lawyer for 14 years, and I'm currently, when I'm not campaigning, I'm working for the Nicola Valley Indigenous Justice Center as a lawyer, representing Indigenous clients who need support as well. I'm currently an elected councillor for the Lower Nicola Indian Band, and I've been doing that for about a year. And prior to that, I was the elected chief of the Lower Nicola Indian Band, which is located just out of Merritt, and they have about 1,300 community members. So I was elected there twice for 3-year terms. And yeah, that's a bit of the work I was doing prior to running for the NDP in this election.
So sticking with the thought process of who you are, because we'll talk about the bigger NDP party in a little bit. What are you wanting to do for Fraser Nicola? Because you must have joined politics for something.
Well, there's several issues that I'm concerned about, and I believe that are really important for people that live in this riding. And one of those is healthcare. And appreciate the question, Gareth, but I just want to take this opportunity to share with you that today the NDP and John Horgan are announcing as part of our platform that we are committed to 7-day-a-week, 24-hour an emergency department here in Ashcroft. So we've made that commitment today. A press release was just issued within the last hour. So healthcare is important, and healthcare is important to everyone that lives in the riding, whether you live in Merritt, Hope, but it's also just as important in places like Ashcroft and other small communities where I believe people in small communities deserve the same access to health care as in larger communities.
You've just thrown me for a curveball. That is a large statement, if that is the case, because this is the first I've heard about it. So this is breaking news for me, so everybody at home. Because this is something that Ashcroft has and the area has sort of been fighting for the last several years that I've lived here. So that's very interesting that's a campaign point. How do you figure that's going to be possible?
Well, I've been talking to people in the riding, and I have family members that are in this riding. I was talking to a family member that lives here, and she was just telling me a week or so ago that her son was born in the hospital. And this was, I think it was in the early 90s or so. And so listening to people throughout Ashcroft, Cache Creek, and even beyond, people have always been talking to me about healthcare. So what I did just over the last week is I had the good fortune of seeing John Horgan on Saturday. We talked about the importance of healthcare. We talked about the importance of healthcare here in Ashcroft, and And yeah, we had the discussion, and I'm really excited to say today that we're announcing that this is a priority. Of course, moving forward, for this to happen, we need support from the provincial government. We also need to work with the community and the people that live here. And yeah, we're committed to doing that.
Again, that's awesome. Okay, so that being said, how often do you? One of the questions I ask everybody in this seat is, how does your campaign sort of function? So, meaning, do you meet with other potential MLAs in a Zoom meeting with John Horgan once a week, daily, have often?
So what we do as part of the campaign is I have a campaign manager, and I have a large group of volunteers, and my primary communication is with my campaign manager, and so he basically, we work together and we decide where we're going to visit, and he helps me set up meetings, for example. So yeah, he's my main person, but what I'm focused on is listening to people, going and traveling throughout the riding and hearing what the issues are. And then when I have opportunities to speak to people, whether it be John Horgan or other people that can, help provide services here, I'll take the opportunity to have those conversations and be an advocate. I appreciate I'm not elected yet, and we'll see what happens on the 24th. But if I have an opportunity to start moving us in the right direction, why not start now during the campaign?
So, what are some of the bigger NDP campaign promises that you are most excited to represent?
Well, I live in Merritt, and one of the issues, of course, is as we move through this pandemic, people are concerned about the future, and they're concerned about their families. And one of the things that I believe is really important, that we continue on the path that we're currently on as we move through the pandemic. And there's the issue of healthcare, of course, the issue of seniors, housing. One of the issues that I'm really concerned, I have a passion for is helping people and making sure people have an opportunity to enjoy the lives that they live in rural parts of the province. Whether you're a senior, whether you have a family, whether you're in high school or a young person, I believe if you want to have a job and enjoy the beautiful rivers and lakes and mountains that we have around us, that we should be able to live here and be productive members of society. So I believe that, as you know, Gareth, we live in a part of the southern interior here where a lot of people are reliant on resource type jobs, whether it be at the local mine or in forestry. So I want to be that advocate in Victoria that stands up for our way of life here. And also, I have a passion as well for the environment. And I know one of the things that I think is really great here in Ashcroft is you see many buildings with solar panels and taking advantage of the beautiful country and sun and energy that we have here. So it's about maintaining the great quality of life that we have here, but also looking at innovative ways that we can move forward and take care of the environment and our beautiful resources that we have here.
If there was one hot button topic that I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, is of course the fact that here we are in an election. 1 year in advance of what we should be doing. So since we're already here, did you have an inkling that you were going to be tapped to be an NDP candidate beforehand, or was it sort of John Horgan made the announcement and you had to sort of scramble to get all your ducks in a row to participate?
Thanks, Gareth, for the question. I I was actually interested in running for the NDP for several years. I sought the nomination a few years ago,
Okay.
but I did not end up being the candidate. What I've been doing is I've been doing everything I can over the last more than a year just to do the groundwork to where I hopefully would become the candidate. So what I did was I have I submitted my application as early as I could, and I submitted it. And at the point prior to the election, it's my understanding that I was the only person that applied to be the candidate. And as a result of it, I became the candidate. I was acclaimed. So I've been a member of the NDP for a long time, and I will continue to be a member. And so, that was the process in terms of me becoming the candidate.
Fair enough. So on your campaign trail, what have been some sort of highlights that you've had, if anything sticks out in your mind as a fun thing and or a challenging thing in your campaign?
Great question, Gareth. I guess maybe the more challenging, it isn't really challenging, but it's different in terms of the campaign during COVID-19. Safety of community members throughout the riding is number one. So we haven't been door knocking. I've been on the phone. We've had Zoom meetings. And so that's been different. It is, at the same time, it's the first time I've run in a provincial election. But that would be one thing. And then in terms of identifying the challenges and maybe moving towards like the fun thing, like you asked, one of the things that my wife and I have a 9.5-month-old son, and he's at home right now, but one of the things that we did just in terms of campaigning is we have our baby stroller, and on our baby stroller we took just, the regular signs, and it says vote Aaron Sumexheltza. So we just put it on each side of the stroller, and when we go for walks with our son in the stroller, we're pushing it around and people can see the sign. And just yesterday when we were pushing the stroller, I had a gentleman, he saw me with the sign there, and he pulled up in his truck and he asked me a question about an issue that was important to him. And so that's, I guess, identifying some of the challenges in terms of not being able to talk to people face to face, but it's created an opportunity to be able to have a safe conversation where you're socially distancing, but being able to still be out in the community and people see that, we're out there and we're doing what we can to connect with people.
Fraser Nicola is a fairly large riding. So I hate to say this, but for anybody that's running, but so when you're elected, let's just say that when you are elected, what is your plan to get from one end of the riding to the other, and how often do you see yourself being all encompassing in Fraser Nicola? If that makes sense.
That's a great question. As you know, it's a vast riding. It's one of the largest in the province, and I think to be an effective MLA, one needs to be able to hear. Like, I live in Merritt, right? I travel here occasionally, but I don't live here, right? I don't live in Lillooet. I don't live in Lytton or in Clinton. So to be an effective MLA, you have to be able to listen and have conversations with the people that live in the riding. So I think one of the things about COVID-19 that it's taught me is we have to also look at creative ways to engage with people. We can do it in-person meetings, and we should do that as often as we can. But at the same time, a lot of people are doing Zoom calls these days, right? So maybe whether it be 6 months or 3 months, and I'm just thinking out loud here, there might be an opportunity to have community engagements. You have a Zoom call, maybe Zoom call with all the mayors and the councils, for example, right? How can we do something in terms of engaging community? So I believe that to be an effective MLA, one needs to engage on a regular basis, not just show up once a year or once every year and a half. So I'm committed to doing that because to be an effective advocate, one needs to have conversations and listen to people.
Let's say you don't get elected. Do you see yourself running again in 4 years, or are you going to stick with, for sure, stick with, municipal councilship, mayorship, or anything like that, or are you going to look federally if you weren't elected?
Thanks for that. 4 years is a long ways to go. I don't know if I can look into the crystal ball and say that. I'm doing everything I can to win now, and but regardless of whether I win or lose, and I'm really hopeful that I'll win, I am going to be living in the community, and I'll still be living in Merritt, and I'll still be living there with my wife and my son, and I'll do everything I can, and I mean, obviously, to be involved in the community and create positive change.
Many years ago, the Coquihalla was built, and it seemingly has affected the whole of the Fraser Canyon, from Yale to here, Ashcroft. So what is something that you might feel you could do to bolster tourism and help regrow the Fraser Canyon corridor and all those little towns?
I was talking to someone actually just a couple days ago, and I think the issue that, I mean, I remember when I was younger, and Highway 1 was just traveled right through here, and how there was so much activity, and it was, the Coquihalla wasn't there. And since the Coquihalla has been put in place, it's really changed all the communities that come through the Fraser Canyon all the way to Kamloops. And I believe that, one, I don't have the solution to all the issues and how we can bring tourism back here. However, I think that some of the issues that you might have in Boston Bar or in Lytton or here, we're all have the same issue, in that there's not as many people that drive by as there used to. So I think that I would like to facilitate or have dialogue with many of the communities. Maybe there's an opportunity to work together, and I think when people work together, and when leaders work together, and maybe you could have a trail of some sorts, for example, right, where you stop in Lytton for a couple hours, and then you stop in Ashcroft, or then you stop in Spence's Bridge, and then Ashcroft and Cache Creek, and you have like a 4 or 5 day a trip, right, where you visit all these different parts of the riding. And like I said, I don't know the answer, but I think that if communities, instead of only doing things on their own, maybe there's opportunities to work together where we can problem solve and build consensus on how we can all support each other and also support our own community.
If you had so let's say you're elected, you're in the Legislative Assembly, you want the one thing that you want to advocate for, and they go, yes, here's all the money you could possibly need to do this. You have all the votes, all the money. What's one thing that you would do in the Fraser Nicola riding if you had sky's the limit, no restrictions?
That's a good question. And I think I'm going to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier. I think that in leadership, the thing that I've learned as chief of my band and as a councillor for my community, and being involved in the Merritt area and the Nicola Valley and beyond, is you have to focus on specific things that you can actually make a difference on. And so here, so I've told you today, Gareth, that John Horgan and the BC NDP have committed to a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week an emergency department here, open in Ashcroft. And so from my perspective, this isn't just a promise. It's something that we need to deliver on. So when I get elected on October 24th or is it November, we'll see how long it takes to get the results. We're going to make that happen. And so you start with something, and then of course you deliver, and then there's opportunities to deliver on other things moving forward.
I have two more questions because I only have you for a certain amount of time. So when you get elected, in the bigger scheme of government for the province, is there one position that you feel that you would rightly want to go after in a cabinet position, if you could?
I'm focusing on getting elected, and I'm not focused on being in cabinet. If that opportunity arose in the future, of course, it would even be an honor to be considered. But right now, what is it, Monday? We're 5 days till election day, or is it 4 or 5 days? So I'm focused on that, and I'm focused on listening to people in the riding, and we'll see what the future holds. But yeah, we can cross that bridge when we get there if it comes.
Fair enough. Is there anything else that you would like to say, closing pitch to get people to vote for you?
Well, I think maybe I've said it twice already, but a vote for John Horgan in the NDP and Aaron Sumexheltza, the X, is a vote for an emergency department here that's open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And everybody at home, if you'd like to see more of what Aaron Sumexheltza had to say, you can check out the All Candidates Forum that is on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. So thank you to Aaron. Thank you to James. And I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Maurice. Thank you all for coming in, and we'll see you all next time.